Okay, good afternoon, everyone. In the interest of time, so that everyone can get to the gym before we go to the, sing-off, we're going to get this membership meeting of the Fellowship Council started. My name is Raul Rosenthal, for those who don't know me, and I'm privileged to be the president of the Fellowship Council. I will need you to approve the minutes from our last business meeting during ACS. So, someone wants to second? Anyone opposed? The next item on my agenda is the Fellowship Council Luncheon we had today. I thought it was a really very much energizing discussion, presentations we had. I enjoyed it very much. And we look forward to Danny Scott's Fellowship Council Luncheon next year. I also like to announce that the American Hernia Society has become a member of the Fellowship Council. So American Hernia Society is working very close with SAGES in developing their programs for training in surgery of the abdominal wall. And last but not least, we're going to have in September our annual retreat. We are in discussions that for the first time we're going to convert this retreat to a strategic planning retreat. So we're going to get together, we're going to hire a consultant, and we're going to develop a strategy where the Fellowship Council is going in the next 5 years. As you know, we have a lot of new initiatives, the intersocietal initiative and the Upper GI Task Force. We have the unified standards. We have the new module-based milestone EPA's curriculums coming across. So there are so many things, moving parts. And also today, I just got approval from my committee. We're going to start a training, surgical training task force where I'm going to implement my mental conditioning and video editing ideas. We hope that we're going to get all the fellows to join us in all these initiatives. So all this is very exciting. So without any further delay, I'm going to ask Corey McBride to come up and talk to us about the Unified Standards Task Force. Corey McBride and Matt Ritter are going to be joining Rebecca Minter in those efforts. Rebecca had to go back home. She's on call today.
Thank you, Raul. So yes, Rebecca asked me to update the group on essentially what we're doing. As many of you know, and has been a real common theme to this whole meeting, we're really talking about ways that we can update and change fellowship curriculums and training to this competency-based idea and using EPAs or entrustable professional activities across all of the fellowships. So we have created what is being called the Fellowship Council Unified Standards Group to try to come up with a concept of rather than each of our individual domains, hepatobiliary or abdominal wall or bariatrics, each working in silos, creating their own set of curriculum, their own set of EPAs, that we really need some unified definitions, some unified competencies, and that we need to be working in concert, because there are going to be some competencies that are uniform across all of our specialties. There are some things that are going to, there's some EPAs that are going to affect multiple fellows no matter what kind of fellowship they're going to be doing. A hiatal hernia repair may be applicable to a fellow doing an MIS fellowship, a foregut fellowship, a bariatric fellowship. And so no matter which fellowship you're doing, if that EPA is determined to be essential for your fellowship, you should be held to the same standard as you do it. So the Unified Standards Group is going to work on that, and basically our task in Rebecca's, as she put it, we're really going to work on a sort of a common language, common standards for all of these GI fellowships. That's not a single specialty. So we asked for representation from all of the societies, and really asked for subject matter experts. So far, we have 31 representatives from all of our societies, and now with the Hernia Society joining us, we suspect they will also contribute some subject matter experts, but we don't have their names yet. And we are scheduling our first meeting hopefully in June, but we're still working on that date because we know that's a really challenging month with new residents coming on board, former residents leaving. So if you expect to be invited to that meeting and you don't have it on your calendar yet, don't be surprised by that. But hopefully we will be getting in touch with you this week with the proposed date. Thank you.
Thank you, Corey. Next, Adnan Al-Saidi. Adnan is our new chair for accreditation, and he's going to give us an update on their efforts. Together with Rohan, Jajarai, they've been doing tremendous amount of work to overhaul our whole accreditation system. So there are a lot of exciting initiatives going on. So, Adnan?
Thank you, Raul. So, Brett Matthews, who is unable to attend, we're both co-chairing the accreditation. I'm just going to briefly report and mostly take questions if there are any with respect to where we are with accreditation. This year's cycle is smaller than last year's cycle. In other words, we have less programs that we are to paper review and to site visit, which is always a good thing. So Group 1 has 29 total, including case log reviews, and Group 2 has 34. And that's already progressing, and each group has met at least 3 times, and so things are moving along really ronicely. The other big issue that Raul mentioned is the IT update, and I'll let Rohan talk about that, and certainly welcome any questions to answer about that. So.
Thank you very much, Adnan, and thanks, Dr. Rosenthal. Thank you all for being here on a Friday afternoon. So just to talk a little bit about the vision here, the idea was to really bring our IT infrastructure up to date with educational concepts and educational theory. Part of that was to look at all aspects of the Fellowship Council, from the membership application all the way through accreditation, all the way through the match process, etc., and make this a sort of very up-to-date IT infrastructure. The emphasis is going to be on evaluation of the fellow, both in and out of the operating room. And the emphasis is going to make this as easy for you as possible. So hopefully that'll all be smartphone friendly, so that you can actually evaluate your fellow after index cases, etc. The second part of this is that accreditation will use these multiple data points now to help in the accreditation process, and also the hope would be to give you real-time feedback with regard to how you are measuring with regard to other programs of your type. So for example, autonomy, number of cases, evaluation of non-operative abilities of fellows, etc. And this is still a work in progress, but this is the sort of overall idea. The next aspect is going to be to look at actually things like the match process, the surveys that come from our fellows, etc., and really make those more of a living, breathing, evolving data set that we can look at. And so there will also be the ability to really work from a research standpoint, and Mike Schweitzer has taken over our research group. So it's a comprehensive overhaul. I wanted to share with you that that does come with a price tag, and after much discussion and we've had a lot of discussion with various possibilities as far as IT overhaul, etc. It looks like we're probably going to be able to move forward fairly quickly, and I think that this will be a really positive thing, with the hope that we'll have this up and running in time for the next cycle. Now, I want to be clear that any changes will allow you enough time to accommodate, etc., and there'll be no repercussions, in the short term for not, meeting guidelines, etc. Like we've done when we've changed curricular elements, we've always given you at least a year to catch up, and all of us are program directors here, so we understand that. I just want to say I think this is going to be better for everyone. It'll be in line with the EPA format that we're moving towards. It'll give us much more, many other data points rather than just the 4 assessment tools that we have right now. And I think it's going to be very exciting. I'm really excited about this overall project, and I just want to thank the President and the Executive Council for being forward-thinking in this. Are there any questions for any of us? Yes, Dr. Kathuri.
The whole, and this is an excellent point. I mean, the whole idea about the way we're approaching this is not only to make it so that things are extractable, that the data is actually not typed in, but actually extractable data, but also that the platform is very much amendable to easy change and upgrades. And for example, like we're going to have the capability of uploading video. We don't think in any time soon we're going to be asking fellows to updating video for assessment, but if we choose in 2-3 years that we want to do that, we have the ability to do that. And so we're certainly keeping that in mind, but absolutely, for sure.
The other part I want to say is that we're going to need your help. So right now we have the backbone of this, but for example, in advanced GI, if we want to assess X, Y, and Z operative cases as index cases, we need to know what those are. We can't make that up. I need to know from the ASMBS, what do you think is important for bariatrics, et cetera? What sort of assessment tools do you need for the non-operative management? So we'll be looking to each and every one of you, because you're here and you're interested, and I thank you for being here, to help us with this, please, because it's for all of us. It's not something that is being thrown out as a law. It's here to be built organically from within. We're just trying to provide the infrastructure from the IT standpoint and the overall educational principles. The actual place, and we're placing a lot of placeholders in places, for example, like video. We'll just have a placeholder there, and then when we're ready, and ASMBS and SAGE has come together and say that they want a video for gastric bypass before a fellow is deemed to be able to finish a fellowship, we want to see that. Great, we'll be able to provide that. Any other questions for me? While I'm up here, thank you, Adnan. While I'm up here, I thought, let me just go ahead with the communications update. So there are a couple of things that are important. We've had a couple of match dissolution issues that are ongoing and should be dealt with without any issues. One of the things you all know, unfortunately, is that our fellows match into the programs 18 months ahead. And so sometimes faculty changes affect that. And so we have to be able to dissolve a match agreement. Just to be clear, the match agreement is a legal binding document between the fellow and the institution. When you sign that match agreement, it is a legal document. In order to dissolve that, both parties have to agree to dissolution. So that's my job, is taking care of those kind of things. It's not usually an issue, but I just want to make sure that you all understand the process. Second of all, the match deadlines will be sent out. They're very similar to what we have. As you know, thoracic and colorectal have a separate match process, which is in the fall. Excuse me, in the beginning of the year. And that was at their request. I do also, and so that's going to stay in process. I do want to say that we have added, with the work of Dr. Rosenthal with ASCOS and the STS, we've added a domain to the application process that really the applicants need to be post colorectal residency training or post-CT residency training. That was what was asked of us by the societies. So I just want to mention that, and that there will be a sort of blurb on those program sites. Any questions for me? Yes. Raul, do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, we're setting up a conference call with all the program directors for the programs that are members of the Fellowship Council and are currently training colorectal surgeons. ASCRS has sent us some emails and signals what they expect for us to continue, accrediting, provided we won ASCRS endorsement. So we haven't made any decisions. We had a discussion. We got their emails, a couple of phone calls I had with Pat Roberts, who is the current president. We felt compelled to, before we do or say anything, to talk to you guys. So Yumi Hori, who is sitting on the back, who is the master of putting together all these wonderful pretzels and luncheons, et cetera, is going to be sending an email and invitation for a conference call that we're going to have with you guys to go over how we're going to move forward. I think we need to make decisions and adjust, but we haven't made any yet.
Right. I would ask you to speak to your ASCRS leadership and convey your opinions, because you've been on conference calls with me regarding this issue, and I know it's not that's why I wanted to make the point today to mention this, because it is something that we've been asked to really pursue strongly from both societies. Yes. Yes, that is. So the issue comes around board certification, and the issue is really non-board eligible applicants, i.e. FMGs, would be considered separately. Correct. And again, we haven't delved that deep. So you're going to. I would just ask the colorectal and the thoracic program directors to have a conversation with ASCRS, because there is a very strong desire that this be a post-colorectal residency training program. And we've talked about this, but I think it's unclear, and it really is up to you guys.
You know, what's really happening is that, as you well know, we've been in discussions with the American Board of Surgery in regards to a certificate of focus expertise. So I think things are becoming a little bit too serious with the Fellowship Council and what we're doing. Our work is becoming relevant. So imagine if the American Board of Surgery is going to be issuing a certificate of focus expertise for those performing thoracic or colorectal surgery that are accredited by the Fellowship Council. I don't think we should. I don't think we want to run a parallel system to the current ACGME accredited programs. And all that has become a little bit dicey, and that's why I think those boards have reacted and have approached us. And we are in conversation, but we owe our program directors a discussion and see how we're going to move forward.
Okay. Thank you all very much.
Samar Matar, is Samar here? Yeah. Why don't you give us an update on finances?
Thanks, Raul. You should have the budget, the statement in your handout. The first page is the statement of assets and compares the budgets between the year 15 and 16. And you can see that we have our savings in cash at the Bank of America, and you can see there also the number of the value of our investments at Merrill Lynch. There hasn't been much change overall at the end of the day between the 2 years. Any questions on this page before I move on to the next one and go into some more detail? You will see here that there was a donation we made to the Foundation for Surgical Fellowships. The next page regarding the statement of revenues and expenditures, operations. As you all know, the member dues and the accreditation program revenue comes in cycles, and this is why you'll find every 3 years there's a larger number than the rest. And, but you'll find that when you go down the column of the percentage of budgets, there really aren't any outliers here. The retreat meeting was 20, maybe 5,000 more than budgeted. And you can see once again here in more detail the grant to the fellowship, the foundation for surgical fellowships. Chano?
Yeah, I can't recall if these numbers reflect the IT investment that
Right. So they do not reflect that, okay? And then the third page, the statement of revenues and expenditures, again, it's the usual numbers related to running the office and our income. Questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Summer. So I'm going to ask Danny Scott, our SAGES president and president-elect for the council, to come up and talk to us about our membership committee.
Great. Thank you, Raul. And I can keep my remarks brief, but I'm happy to answer any questions. The only bulleted item on the agenda today is the associate PD requirement. And as a reminder, we decided as an organization that we thought it would breed stability if we make it formally a requirement to have an associate program director at each fellowship program. And we announced this back at the American College of Surgeons meeting in October. Yumi has done a great job helping us track this. We have only 43 of our 169 programs as of March 8th that do not currently have a designated associate program director. And so does that affect anyone in this room? Is anyone struggling with that or not have an associate PD at their place? Okay, I assume that the folks that it affected might not be here. And we have plans to increasingly encourage those individuals, because we hate to alienate people or lose programs, because it will be an accreditation issue come October if they're not in compliance. So if you know folks that need some encouragement, please just tell it to them like it is. Adnan?
And it strikes me that I haven't seen a clear definition of who is eligible to be the APD.
Okay.
We have some programs that there isn't another individual that isn't doing the same process, the same surgeries, and we have allowed at times that, for example, if you're a bariatric surgeon, there's another colorectal surgeon that is helping teach the fellow that to be an APD, and I think that may be a benefit to define who can be that.
Yeah, so I was struggling to hear Adnan. I'm going to repeat some of the thread, and if y'all couldn't hear it, of qualifications of who can be the associate PD. Yumi and I kind of crafted some language around that fairly carefully with, I think, input from the membership committee when we sent out the initial letter. And we tried to make it fairly liberal, but still meaningful. In other words, it had to be somebody that was a teaching faculty for that program. That was about the gist of the stipulation. And so we want to just encourage folks to identify somebody like that. And the whole thrust of the matter is that if the program director leaves, we want somebody second in command to take over seamlessly so the fellows don't get put in a pinch. But we could share that certainly, Adnan, at least amongst the executive committee of the board, and see if anybody has further input. Our plan is to start contacting those programs this summer in a personal way if they're not responding to the letters that we're increasingly sending them. We had a nice executive committee meeting this afternoon earlier, and we voted to approve something the membership committee is working on with regards to a new timeline for new member applications. We have about 8 or 10 applications. Typically we have 8 this year. And there's slight overlap just because of the kind of organic fashion that our timelines have morphed as we move back the match process into the PGY 4-year, as the American Board of Surgery had encouraged us to do. That's kind of put our timelines a little bit different and overlapping now for new member applications, overlapping with the candidate applications. So we're going to back those off, and I think that will be a nice paradigm shift for us. And that concludes my remarks, but anything else I'm happy to talk about. Thank you.
Thank you, Danny. Eugene, education and case law.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Reporting for the Education Committee, we're happily going to embrace Dr. Rosenthal's concept of both mental training for surgical education and the process of breaking down procedures and techniques into nodes, which are then analyzed at a video level for individual step teaching. And our committee members will engage in that process immediately. We have representatives on the committee from each of the silos that we're, as Shawnee mentioned, we're trying to get away from, but we still have currently within the program itself. The curriculum committee is fortunate to include Dr. Corrigan McBride, who of course just gave the introductory remarks here. So with dramatic changes coming in the curriculum, not just of course from our level, but from an inter-society level, we'll be awaiting those decisions and those developments through the EPA retreat upcoming in June to further guide our progress on that committee. For the web-based committee, the IT infrastructure upgrade will dramatically impact our ability to serve in that regard as well. Many of the web case log interface improvements that we had envisioned asking for when the case committee, when the web log committee and the case log committee was invented or created, ended up being scoped as resource intensive and quite expensive. So as part of the IT upgrade, many of the suggestions we had wanted to implement will actually be part of that. And so we'll be able to dramatically improve both the ability to recall cases, to categorize them, to both characterize what your fellows are doing and to accurately reflect to applicants to your program what your fellows are actually doing. And from the research standpoint, to be able to, and Mike's going to talk about that, to pull data. Currently, for instance, we just heard about a request for information that required our staff members with the Fellowship Council to pull individual CVs from applicants to get the information. With the new infrastructure upgrade, they'll be able to pull that with a search function instead. That actually about covers what I was going to cover here. So yeah, so we'll be looking forward to working with Raul on his mental training initiative. We have, oh sorry, the last thing to cover is our fellow evaluating faculty case evaluation module, or evaluation module, is now live and online. Has anyone seen that yet, or have any of the fellows in the room actually seen that yet? Okay. So if you have any problems with it, it's an iterative process. It is in development. There is no standard or gold standard or even validated system to compare it to. So please give us your feedback. Direct them to me or to Yumi, and she'll get them to me, and I will share them with our committee to streamline that process and make it work better for you, and to hopefully make it as least impactful on your time and your fellows' time as possible. The idea, again, behind that is to give you immediate feedback that you can share with your fellow, with your administration right away. And should there be anything good about that process that you enjoy, be aware that it was created with the able assistance of the entire committee, including especially Dr. Mike Brown over there and Leanne Feldman. And if you don't like anything about it, you can feel free to blame me, because I can't talk. But, all right. Thank you. I'll take any questions. Okay, thank you all.
So I want to highlight, as I mentioned before, Yumi Hori, our executive director, who is on the back. We should give her a big round of applause because she does really tremendous amount of work. The other individual that deserves a big round of applause is Mike Brunt. He's become our priest. He blesses us when we do something good or something wrong. And Mike has spent so much time amending our bylaws. So Mike, thank you so much for this tremendous amount of work. So let's give him a big round of applause. So the rumor is that I've been probably one of the first fellows in MIS in the United States of America when I came here in the year 1993 to work with Ed Phillips. And Morris Franklin is still fighting with Ed, who was the first one, if he is or I am. I can tell it's been for me so far really a great ride, a distinguished privilege to be the president of the society. This year has been exciting. We just heard about EPAs, which is a new language. we, the Fellowship Council, studied the unified standards. We're having a retreat, and Rebecca Minter was now asked by the American Board of Surgery to write the EPAs for them. The American Board of Surgery has approached us to start issuing certificates of focus expertise of all those fellowship programs that we've been accrediting all this time. So that should be seen also as a great honor to this society. In addition to that, as you probably heard this morning from our presidential address, SAGES, in conjunction with SSIT, is starting a pilot project of a new advanced GI fellowship program that I believe is going to be outstanding. The training committee we just heard, and the IT overhaul. Once we do this IT overhaul, I cannot imagine it's going to be any educational society in surgery in the United States of America that is going to be even close to what we are doing, how we're going to be educating and tracking education and evaluating education. And last but not least, I want to acknowledge two individuals sitting here in the room, Dr. Lee Swanstrom and Bruce Schirmer, who are not only founding members, but really inspired me to do all this work. And the Fellowship Council is now 20 years old. So congratulations, guys. Thank you very, very much. And Mike Schweitzer, welcome on board as a new chair for research. If you want to say some words about research.
Briefly, as you've heard already, we're going to have a lot more data collected with the new IT upgrade. And with that, we'll have a lot of data requests. So we're going to have a formal data request policy so that all the program directors and societies can request data. What form that's going to come in, we'll see. We still need to talk about that. The other request I have from all of you is we're going to send out, Raul has asked us to send out a survey to find out what's happening with our fellows in practice. Our bariatric fellows, are they doing bariatrics, are they not? More in depth. So I'm begging, pleading, try and get your fellows to fill it out, your former fellows. And that's it. Any questions? Okay.
If there is no other new business, the meeting is adjourned. I see you tonight. Thank you for coming.